The Sumerians wrote about the Anunnaki, who supposedly created humans. Was this mythology or genetic engineering? The Maya carved images that looked suspiciously like astronauts and spoke of star people who brought them wisdom. And in ancient India, epic text described flying machines, high-tech weapons, and battles in the sky. These are ancient civilizations that might have had contact with aliens. The Sumerians weren't just one of the first civilizations, they were also one of the strangest. These guys popped up out of nowhere seemingly around 3100 BCE in what's now Iraq, bringing with them advanced knowledge of writing, astronomy, and law. And there's also something else they're known for though. Their myths, more specifically the Anunnaki, beings who came down from the heavens and were said to have given them their knowledge. Now, ancient people talking about receiving knowledge from a higher power isn't all that unique. You're going to hear it more on this list as well, but some think that the Sumerians were actually describing an alien race. See, some of their artwork seems to show figures that look eerily like modern depictions of aliens, tall, slender, and humanoid, but not really, and of course, coming from the sky. They also wrote about these beings, describing how the Anunnaki created humans to do hard labor, like digging canals and working the land. Well, some theorists take their story and say, well, what if creating humans actually meant genetic engineering? Were the Sumerians just writing myth, or were they actually recording something much more literal? Some researchers believe the Sumerians' rapid advancement doesn't make sense without some kind of outside influence either. How did they develop advanced irrigation and the world's first cities almost overnight? And let's not forget their knowledge of the solar system. Some of their texts describe the night sky in ways that were pretty ahead of their time. So is it possible they were getting their astronomy lessons from advanced beings from another planet? You probably don't need me to tell you that the Maya were ahead of their time. They had insanely accurate calendars, complex cities, and a deep understanding of the cosmos, so it probably comes as no surprise that they're often associated with theories about ancient aliens. Here's where a lot of that comes from. Some of their carvings and artifacts look like they're depicting figures in spacesuits. One of the most famous examples is the lid of Pakal's tomb. Some say it shows him piloting what looks like a spacecraft, with buttons and knobs and controls and what looks like a breathing apparatus and flames shooting out of the bottom. Traditional archaeologists say it's just a stylized representation of the afterlife or something, but let's be real, if you showed that carving to someone with zero context, they'd probably say it looks like a dude in some sort of spaceship, or something just advanced for the time. And then there's their obsession with the gods descending from the sky, often depicted with serpentine or bird-like features. Now, was this just fantasy, or were they actually recording encounters with beings from up in space? Their myths even mention beings known as the Star People, who supposedly came down to teach them wisdom. Some of their temples and pyramids also line up with stars and planets in a way that makes it seem like they knew way more about space than you'd think possible for such an ancient society. So were they just a highly advanced civilization, or did they have a little guidance from up above? Ancient Indian texts are full of wild descriptions of these flying machines called vimanas. These weren't just vague mentions of something flying through the sky. These texts go into crazy detail about the mechanics, the weapons, and even the fuel these crafts supposedly used. The Mahabharata and Ramayana talk about epic aerial battles, beams of light that could destroy entire cities, and weapons that sound suspiciously like modern-day nukes. Now, of course, most people think these stories are just myths, but some believe they may have been describing real events, possibly involving extraterrestrial technology. And even stranger, some of these texts describe the Vimanas as being piloted by beings with godlike abilities, often descending from the heavens to interact with humans. Were these just religious visions, or did these ancient people have a more literal understanding of what was going on? Whether or not these texts are just stories, it's pretty cool that they sound more like science fiction than your more traditional mythological tales.
In our number 7 spot today, we have the Ice Age art. More ancient artwork, this time from the Colombian Amazon. Thing is, unlike other drawings found on the ceilings of tombs, this canvas stretches about 8 miles. The paintings are even more impressive, dating back to 12,000 years ago. These were made near the end of the last Ice Age. Thousands of paintings, by the way, not just a handful of arrows either. These were found in 2017, but it was only last last year when they went public with the findings. The findings being paintings of elephants, massive sloths, horses from the Ice Age, snakes, birds, deer. This is now one of the largest collections of rock art in South America. Pregnant women or the origins of the Ninja Turtles? You tell me. In our number 6 spot today we have Tomb KV55. Located in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, Tomb 55, otherwise known as KV55, was discovered by Edward Ayrton back in 1907. And the reason we call this tomb by a number rather than a name is because we really don't know who or what is inside. Even the walls inside aren't like other tombs, covered in ancient hieroglyphs, tipping the reader off on the noble history of the king that lies before them. Nothing is here. The only hint that remains is one hieroglyph, and it translates to, "The evil one shall not live again." Even these massive stones were built in order to prevent anything from getting out. Usually with these ancient tombs, it's the opposite. The description for those inside the tomb has also been destroyed, so we have no idea who's in KV55 or what. Many believe it's Akhenaton, and back then they didn't believe in multiple gods, just one, so Akhenaton got on the wrong foot with the high priests, and over his 17 years of ruling, he was convincing everybody that their art and religion was wrong, and there was only one god in existence. This was the sun god. His own son, King Tut, succeeded him and luckily restored the previous religion, but maybe the sun god was passing knowledge to him, or maybe he just loved staring at the sun, or maybe aliens. Honestly, we gotta tie it back in somehow. In our number 5 spot today we have the Voynich manuscript. In 1912, an antique bookseller somehow stumbled upon the Voynich manuscript. This is a book that is 250 pages long, and while it shows some images of different things, it is also completely written in an unknown alphabet. The book is said to be from around 600 years ago, but why have we never seen this alphabet at all before? Aliens? A researcher by the name of Stephen Bax has apparently been able to decipher 14 of the characters in the book, but do you really know for sure? It is said that while this book may have been written in some unknown language, it may also possibly be code for something that is yet to be cracked. While I truly have no idea what secrets this book holds, I do hope it's nothing of importance to us now. Or maybe the aliens are just trying to make contact. Write in English, please. In our number 4 spot today we have the Atacama Giant. This massive geoglyph is located in the Atacama Desert of Chile. Looks like an alien doodle. I love this little guy. It is a large human-like figure measuring 86 meters in height, and it is believed to have been created by the pre-Columbian peoples who inhabited the area over 1,000 years ago. The figure's arms are raised and its body is decorated with symbols and designs that are thought to have been religious or have astronomical significance. Imagine finding this one day hundreds of years ago. It would be absolutely jarring. The purpose of the geoglyph remains a mystery. Who were they trying to communicate with in the skies? The geoglyph is speculated to have been used for astronomical observation or as a spiritual symbol. Today, the Atacama Giant is considered an important archaeological site and a cultural landmark in the region. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Northern Kazakhstan geoglyphs. This is a package deal, more than one symbol in this one. Massive, mysterious geoglyphs were found in the remote regions of northern Kazakhstan. These geoglyphs consisted of various shapes and symbols, including circles, squares, lines, some of which stretch for several kilometers across the landscape. Our last one was one symbol, one little guy. This one here is much larger. The origin and purpose of these geoglyphs of course remain unknown, but they are believed to have been created by the ancient nomadic tribes who inhabited the region over 2,000 years ago. Some experts speculate that the geoglyphs may have been used for religious or ceremonial purposes, while others believe that they may have served as navigational aids. Or, if you're clicking this video, maybe they were communicating with higher beings. Maybe it was aliens, I'm just saying, alright? Today, the northern Kazakhstan geoglyphs are considered a very important archaeological site. In our number 2 spot today, we have the stone circles. The Middle Eastern stone circles are a collection of ancient structures consisting of standing stones. You guessed it, all forming circles. They're found in various parts of the Middle East. Again, an incredible amount of work was required to coordinate these geoglyphs. The stone circles are over 5,000 years old and were likely used for religious or astronomical purposes. Researchers have agreed that there must have been some sort of leader or head architect involved in order to make these circles happen. Maybe an alien architect. He's just laying out floor plans for this lovely new planet he found. Experts believe that they could have been used to herd wild animals, or the stone circles could have been used in ceremony after death. Finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Sajama Lines. The Sajama Lines were rediscovered in the 1930s in the Sajama National Park in Bolivia. It's a massive network of straight lines and geometric shapes stretching over 20 kilometers over the surrounding landscape. What creeps me out the most is that this looks like another planet. This looks like a crater with lines shooting out of it, almost like an ancient alien highway. Maybe I'm crazy, but we're here at number 1 after all. Some experts believe that the Sajama Lines were used for astronomical observation, as they are aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. That's both impressive, but also terrifying, okay?
What are these figurines supposed to be? Would you ever think that they were meant to depict humans? Certainly don't look human to me, but it's not just because they're very old sculptures. I mean, they look intentionally not human. They look reptilian. The noses, or lack thereof, the eyes, if these were meant to resemble people, they did a bad job. Either that or these were really horrifying looking folks. But if they're not meant to be humans, then what exactly are they? The statues are often referred to as the Ubaid lizard men. The 7,000-year-old artifacts were uncovered in Iraq in the 20th century. There are theories as to what these things could be, but no definitive evidence. Unfortunately, we don't have any written records of the time, so determining the ideas behind people's artistic expression in prehistoric Mesopotamia, it's not really the easiest, but I'm pretty fascinated by the idea that there may have been some reptilian aliens visiting Earth around this time that people were depicting here.
Definitive proof of life beyond our planet found inside of a meteorite that landed in Sri Lanka back in December of 2013. Yeah. When pieces of the space rock were gathered and examined back in 2013, a shocking discovery was made. The debris of the meteor contained fossils, algae fossils, of clear extraterrestrial origin, according to lead scientist Professor Chandra Wickramasinghe. Because algae is technically alive, if Professor Chandra's science is correct, the discovery marks the first documented discovery of life that originated from outside of our atmosphere. While the legitimacy of the work has been debated amongst Chandra's peers, who claim that the algae may have been embedded into the meteorite during its time on Earth, the professor is standing firm in his discovery and has claimed that among the algae fossils he discovered were other organisms that are not yet identified and do not match anything discovered on Earth thus far, which of course is great news for those of us who are really hoping that Chandra's discovery of extraterrestrial life is legitimate and that the doubters are just mad they weren't able to make the discovery for themselves.
Are these sculptures of planes? They kind of look like stylized planes to me, but that would be impossible because these are thousands of years old. They're artifacts from what is known as the Kumbaya period, a pre-Columbian culture which was around from about 500 BC to 680. They were known for their skill in metalwork. I mean, obviously these things are lovely, but yeah, they really do look remarkably like modern airplanes. They have wings that don't really look like bird wings to me, and a lot of them even have what look like tail fins. So how and why were these created? Did these people somehow have knowledge of what the future of air travel was going to look like? Were they encountering beings with highly advanced technology? The official explanation is that these are depictions of animals, you know, insects, birds, that sort of thing, and yeah, there's a very good chance that's all these are, but I can't deny how eerily accurate they look to modern flying machines. And here's another really interesting thing. In 1994, a group of German engineers actually built scale models of the Kumbaya artifacts to see if they could fly, and guess what? They did, with an added propulsion system of course, but the designs worked. They were aerodynamically perfect and could fly. The Inca built one of the most impressive empires in history, and they did it without the wheel, iron tools, or a writing system, at least not one we can fully understand. But their stonework is where things get really weird. Sites like Sacsay Huaman have massive, perfectly cut stones that fit together without mortar, almost like a puzzle, and some of these stones weigh over 100 tons, and we still don't know exactly how they moved and shaped them like that. Some say it was just good old-fashioned manpower and ingenuity, but others think they might have had some help. The legends of the Inca mention sky gods who came down and taught them knowledge. Were these just mythological figures, or could they have been something else entirely? The Dogon people of Mali have a knowledge of astronomy that's bizarrely advanced for a tribe that by all accounts shouldn't have had access to telescopes. Specifically, they've known about Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, for centuries. Western astronomers didn't confirm its existence until the 20th century, but the Dogon had detailed knowledge about it long before that. They claim they got this information from beings called the Nomo, amphibious, fish-like deities from the Sirius system who came from the sky and brought knowledge. Again, this sounds a lot like extraterrestrial contact, but is it just a myth? Did they just figure out everything they know on their own? Or were they actually visited by beings from the Sirius system? China's mythology is full of sky beings, flying chariots and rulers who claim to be descended from celestial visitors. One of the most famous examples is the Yellow Emperor, who was said to have arrived on a flying dragon and later ascended back into the heavens. Then there are the carvings and artifacts showing figures with elongated skulls and strange non-human features. Some even resemble what modern UFO enthusiasts would call gray aliens. There are also ancient accounts of metallic flying machines, energy weapons, and even what some interpret as nuclear explosions in early Chinese texts. So, again, could these stories be describing actual encounters with extraterrestrials, or are they just highly exaggerated myths? Given China's long history and meticulous record keeping, it's not hard to wonder if some of these stories have more truth to them than we may think. Ancient Greece may not be the first place that comes to mind when thinking about alien contact, but their mythology, their advanced technology, it does make you wonder. The Greeks had gods and beings that descended from the sky, often in glowing chariots or surrounded by radiant light. You could interpret that as something of a UFO encounter. Take Prometheus, for example, who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. Could this be a metaphor for advanced knowledge gifted to early humans by an otherworldly being? Then there's more concrete stuff like the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient analog computer discovered in a shipwreck. This thing was capable of things that wouldn't be matched for over 1,000 years. Where did the Greeks get this level of understanding? Was it purely because they were just that smart, or is it possible they had some divine inspiration, maybe from beings beyond Earth? Here's another strange little curiosity: accounts of flying shields seen in battle, reported by historians like Herodotus. Was this just dramatic storytelling? Or were ancient Greek soldiers actually seeing aircraft thousands of years before modern UFO reports? The Karlsupe civilization in Peru is one of the oldest in the Americas, dating back to around 3000 BCE. Yet they built massive pyramids, had complex urban planning, and even developed a mysterious form of record keeping using knotted strings. They seem to have done this with no outside influence, at least no influence that we know of. Unlike other ancient civilizations, the Karlsupe didn't leave behind a lot of warlike artifacts. Signs of massive conflicts, no battle records, just peaceful, advanced city building. Some researchers believe this points to them having had help from a superior intelligence that guided them toward a civilization focused on science and trade rather than conflict and power. There's also the uncanny similarity between their pyramids and those found in Egypt. How did these two civilizations, separated by thousands of miles, come up with the same type of structures? Was it just a coincidence, or were they both following the same blueprint, one that might not have originated on Earth? The Nazca people lived in what's now Peru between 100 BCE and 800 CE, and they left behind something that still baffles people today: these massive geoglyphs known as the Nazca lines. We're talking giant animals, humanoid figures, and geometric shapes all etched into the desert floor. The thing is, you can really only see them from way up in the air. And this is where the alien theories come in. Some believe the Nazca made these lines as messages or landing strips for extraterrestrial visitors. After all, why go through all that effort to make something you couldn't even fully appreciate from the ground? There's also the theory that the Nazca had help from advanced beings who guided them in creating these massive designs. Obviously, there are skeptics who argue that they were purely ceremonial or meant to be seen from surrounding hills, but the fact that some lines stretch for miles and form perfectly straight paths, it does make you wonder who or what were they trying to communicate with? Well, of course, no list of possible alien-influenced civilizations would be complete without ancient Egypt. The pyramids alone have had people speculating things for centuries. These massive structures are so precisely built that modern engineers still aren't completely sure how they were constructed. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is aligned almost perfectly with the true north, and the measurements of its base are oddly connected to the dimensions of the Earth itself. Did the Egyptians really figure this out on their own? Or did someone or something give them the knowledge? Then there are these strange depictions in Egyptian art. Some carvings show beings with particularly large eyes, what look like advanced devices. Even more bizarre are the light bulb carvings in the Dendera temple, which some believe depicted electrical technology. Egyptian mythology also talks about the gods descending from the sky and sharing knowledge with humanity. Were these gods just myths, or were they actual beings from another world? If so, what was their purpose in guiding one of the most powerful civilizations in history? A strange UFO sighting was captured over New Jersey recently. In a 13-second clip shot near Atlantic City on a Sunday night back in December, a strange white light blinks in the sky before suddenly vanishing. Family members who were watching the light in the sky were completely baffled by what they were looking at. The thing just kind of hovers in the sky, slightly flickering before it looks like it disappears. Turns out that's not exactly the case. A man named Tim Janicki, who received the footage from a friend, posted it online with the heading reading, "I don't trust random videos I see on X, but this is 100% real." So this video has been getting shared around quite a bit. One commenter pointed out, "You can see it didn't just disappear, but it took off with incredible speed. There's a small flash of light to the left as it leaves. Humans can't produce the energy required to go that fast, especially from standstill." And that's true. If you look closely, you do see this really quick blip of light appear in the upper left of the screen right after the strange orb of light looks like it vanishes. Other people commented similar things, like one person saying, "No flight system we have right now can go from stationary to warp drive in an instant. These flight characteristics are well beyond light years ahead of us." Now, this is just one incident in a long list of strange sightings in the sky over New Jersey, which led the FAA to briefly limit drone flights in some areas. The FBI and other federal agencies have been looking into a bunch of the reports apparently, and they claim that so far they haven't found anything pointing to a national security threat. Again, so they say. This footage here was posted to Reddit by user YogurtClosetFlat5701 just a couple weeks ago with the caption, "This just happened above Brookville Boulevard, Snake Road in Queens, New York, right next to JFK Airport. We looked up and there were 4 orange orbs in formation in what is supposed to be a no-fly zone. They then started to disappear. Did anybody else in the area witness this?" End of post. And that's a good question. Any New Yorkers in the comments see this as well? Let us know down in the comments here. There are some interesting comments from other witnesses on the post though. One user, Zora Octavia, wrote, "Lived here for 14 years with planes flying by all day, every day. They fly so low it feels like you can almost touch them. I know what they look like when they come in to land and take off. I have never seen anything like this. Ever." And that's not the only strange orange orb that's been spotted in the sky recently. On December 26th, a Redditor by the name of HellFollowed84 posted this footage. The video was shot in central Georgia. A father had gone to take out the trash when he spotted the strange orb in the sky. He noticed something, quote, "bright and orange overhead through the pines." He pointed it out to his son and they both just stared at it for several minutes before deciding to film it. The father shared the video on Reddit. In the clip we see this glowing orange orb gliding across the sky, weaving between the tops of pine trees. At one point, the orb looks like it dims and then vanishes entirely. As HellFollowed84 wrote, "When I first observed it, the light was huge, but it was way off, like half a mile. As it got closer, it seemed to dim but stayed the same luminous lighting. As I walked further to capture it, I thought, what if it was trying to evade me?" A bunch of Redditors wondered if it could be a plane, but the user didn't think so, saying it made no sound, unlike the planes that frequently fly over his home.
The Williams Enigmalith. What is it? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but it's definitely from out of this world. It looks a bit like a rock with a plug, but it's not a rock with a plug, and it's far from being just an ordinary rock. The object was found in 1998 by a hiker named John J. Williams. He noticed a strange piece of metal coming out of the dirt on his hiking trail, and so he dug it up. When he did, he revealed a rock with 3 metal prongs sticking out of it. It looked somehow man-made and appeared to have some kind of electrical component to it. Why? Well, I'm not sure, but Williams, who is an electrical engineer, claims that the electronic component embedded in the stone was not glued or welded into the granite rock surrounding it, meaning that while it appears to have possibly been man-made, because electrical components don't just naturally exist inside of rocks, especially ones dated to be around 100,000 years old, it must be something else, perhaps from somewhere else, perhaps somewhere out of this world. While Williams is open to having others research the strange rock, he does have a few conditions. He must be present for whatever discovery is made, and the rock must remain unharmed. Even with these parameters, you would think that by using modern day tools and technology, we would have been able to get an answer as to what exactly the rock is by now, and where the electrical component is coming from and how it was embedded. But no such discovery has been made, leaving the leading theory to be that its origins are likely not of this earth, and that it likely holds the answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet.
No one is exactly sure what this thing is. It's been dubbed the Wedge of Aiud and was found in Romania in 1973. Workers came across it while digging during a construction project. It was found buried along with 2 large mastodon bones. The wedge is around 5 pounds and it's made of aluminum. Now, this turns out to be pretty strange because aluminum wasn't widely used until the 19th century, but this thing is estimated to be much older, at least 250,000 years old. It's a very odd looking object. It looks like a modern art piece or something, but what exactly is it? Well, again, nobody really knows for sure, but one of the funnest theories, of course, is that it's extraterrestrial in origin, maybe having come off an ancient alien spacecraft or something.
The Sumerian Triumph Tapestry, which appears to not only depict the succession of various rulers to the throne, but also the presence of UFOs hovering above the Sumerian people, is next on our list today. The tapestry was created in the capital of West Flanders province in the Flemish region of Belgium around 1538, and since then it has been the subject of many conspiracy theories, which makes sense considering the 2 alien spaceship-looking objects depicted in the top left corner of the piece. Now, if you know anything about the Sumerian people or the Anunnaki, you are likely well aware that even without the presence of the Triumph Tapestry, the Sumerians are a pretty good argument for the legitimacy of aliens having had a pretty prominent presence on Earth in the past. Adding the tapestry into the mix is really just the cherry on top of the extraterrestrial cake, because it confirms how the Anunnaki, the ultra-intelligent alien species that ordered the creation of the pyramids, arrived on Earth in the first place. If you don't know anything about the Sumerians, ancient Sumeria, and the Anunnaki, but would like to, I do have a video on them titled Ancient Sumerian Mysteries that may never be explained that you can watch after this.
Next, we have the Coso artifact, known as one of the world's out-of-place artifacts. It was discovered in 1961 near Olancha, California. While out looking for geodes, these rock collectors found a strange rock that seemed out of place, and when they cut it open, they were surprised to find it actually had a metal core inside. The outer layer of the rock was encrusted with a hard substance, while the inner metal core was a cylindrical object that looked almost like a spark plug. This was not what anyone had been expecting to find, because the rock seemed to be millions of years old, far older than the age of modern machinery. So it sparked, see what I did there? It sparked a lot of curiosity. Some researchers think this is just a naturally occurring geode that somehow formed around a modern spark plug, but what if it's not the case? What if it's a piece of ancient technology left by an advanced civilization? Or even more interesting, an object that that some extraterrestrial beings left behind a long time ago.
I'm sure by now we've all heard the theories that the pyramids were built by aliens, which is a fair assumption considering the fact that historians have been consistently unable to come up with an explanation as to how the construction of the pyramids would have been possible in ancient times. But what about other massive artifacts like Stonehenge, or perhaps the massive stone head that was found in the middle of the Guatemalan jungle in the 1930s? The statue dates back to before the Spanish Revolution, so prior to the Mayan and Aztec empires falling to the Spanish armies, which is strange considering 1, there is little to no way the Mayans living in the area could have sculpted the stone head and placed it in the area, and 2, if somehow they did, why doesn't it look like them? The statue's features do not mimic those of the ancient Mayans or Aztecs. Because of this, it is believed that the features once displayed on the head, which have since worn down due to revolutionary troops using the historic artifact as target practice, were actually the features of an ancient alien civilization that was far more intelligent than humanity, and that likely had a hand in the construction of the Mayan and perhaps even the Aztec empires as well.
This next one is actually 100% known to be from space. Back in June of last year, Harvard professor and theoretical astrophysicist Avi Loeb led an excavation to Papua New Guinea to uncover the remnants of a meteor that had crashed into the Pacific Ocean, and what they found were small spherical space rocks from deep in space, and there's still a question as to whether the object they came from was naturally occurring or not. What they do know is that the small spheres are made up of elements we don't have here on Earth. Loeb wrote, quote, "This is a historic discovery because it represents the first time that humans put their hands on materials from a large object that arrived to Earth from outside the solar system."
Finally, we have an incredibly mysterious extraterrestrial object discovered by the Betts family in 1974. That year, a mysterious fire had broken out on the family's property that destroyed 88 acres of woodland. When the Bettses went out to explore the area and search for the cause of the mysterious fire, they stumbled across a metal sphere with a diameter of just 8 inches and a weight of almost 20 pounds. At first, the family thought that the object might have belonged to the Soviet Union or perhaps NASA. They thought about leaving it where they found it, but curiosity got the better of them, and so they decided to take it home. About 2 weeks later, the family's son was playing guitar while sitting next to the strange spherical object when all of a sudden it began to emit a strange resonating sound that caused the family dog to act up. A while later, the family discovered that when they pushed the sphere across the floor away from themselves, it would change direction and return to the person who had pushed it. Not only that, but the object avoided being damaged at all costs, rolling up slanted tables to keep itself from crashing on the floor, and eventually it began emitting pulsing sounds seemingly out of nowhere. The strange behavior was witnessed by scientists as well as representatives from the military, so you don't just have to take the Betts family's word for it. At first, the Betts family refused to let the ball out of their possession, but after doors started slamming shut and music began randomly playing in their home, they handed it over to the authorities, who were shocked to discover that the metal ball was just that, a metal ball, or so it appeared. While there is no solid explanation as to why the sphere displayed such strange properties and caused so many strange things to happen, I think we can all agree that the most likely reason is because it came from outer space with a purpose that has yet to reveal itself to mankind.
Number 10. Recent sighting. Middletown was shaken by an extraordinary event last month as residents reported witnessing a display of rotating green lights hovering above them. The inexplicable sighting, which occurred around 10:30 p.m., left many in awe and pondering the possibility of extraterrestrial activity. One individual, Caden Little, managed to capture the event on video while on Jerry Couch Boulevard. Caden described his initial reaction as a mix of fear and fascination, exclaiming, "I instantly thought like we're under attack by aliens. It was scary." Fortunately, the lights abruptly disappeared without any hostile action, providing some relief. Eyewitnesses, including Bryce Garrick, observed the lights rotating in a clockwise motion before swiftly darting across the sky and vanishing. The bewildering speed at which the lights maneuvered ruled out the possibility of drones, according to Brian Simpson, president of the Cincinnati Astronomical Society. So what was it? Who knows, but my bet is aliens. Number 9. The coin incident. At
At 7:30 p.m. on October 18, 1973, American Airlines Flight 21 encountered a UFO near Mansfield, Ohio, and reported it. This would be the first of dozens of sightings reported in the area that night. However, the most astonishing one took place 3 hours later and became known as the Coin Incident. Sometime after 10:30 p.m., an Army Reserve helicopter piloted by Captain Lawrence Coyne and a crew of 3 men was flying from Columbus to Cleveland when, somewhere around Mansfield, they noticed a red light on the horizon. They then realized that the object was heading straight for them at a high rate of speed. Coyne quickly descended to avoid collision, but as the men were preparing for impact, the object came to a halt in front of them and projected a green, pyramid-shaped beam over the helicopter. At the same time this was happening, the men reported the helicopter being pulled up and towards the UFO. However, it then let go and darted out of sight. The incident lasted 5 minutes. The men described a gray, metallic-looking dome-shaped object with a red light on one end and white light on the other. Now, interestingly, after the incident, according to one crew member, the helicopter never worked right again. Now, this whole incident was seen from the ground by a mother and her 2 children who pulled their car over to watch what was going on. They reported seeing the helicopter chasing an object that they said looked like blimp, pear-shaped, and as big as a school bus. Number 8. Earliest photographs. A photo taken in St. Paris, Champaign County in 1932 is considered one of the earliest possible photographs of a UFO ever recorded. It shows George Sutton, a local resident, and what appears to be a classic UFO-shaped object over his left shoulder. Skeptics say the object is simply a street lamp, but according to the folklore that surrounds this image, there were no electric streetlights along this road in 1932, nor are any wires or poles visible in the image. Now, this photo is intriguing because it predates the flying saucer craze of the late 1940s and 50s. It was taken before the alleged Roswell UFO crash in 1947, and it was 6 years prior to the broadcast of the War of the Worlds in 1938, when some people believed aliens were attacking Earth. In other words, the person who took this photograph either captured a street lamp, a real UFO, or was way ahead of the curve in terms of pulling off a good hoax. But I'd like to think it's a real UFO.
And we're back to New Jersey with another set of strange lights in the sky captured on camera recently. A YouTuber named CJ Faison recently posted footage showing what he believes are drones flying in quote deliberate formations off the coast of New Jersey over the Atlantic Ocean. He took a boat 26 miles out from the Pine Barrens to get the footage using a night vision camera. In the video, he'd gone out to get footage of the mysterious drones that people have been spotting in the skies over the last couple months. He did manage to capture a bunch of these blinking lights in the sky. Some are stationary, some are seen moving through the sky, some appear and disappear completely, and some of the drones seem to zip across the horizon at incredible speeds. It is definitely odd. CJ wrote in the video description, "The drones in New Jersey have been seen coming from the ocean for several weeks. We found UAP drones in the middle of the ocean 100%. This is something they don't want you to see." Now, sure, people have access to drones nowadays. There are more things in the sky than there ever have been in history, but it seems like people are spotting particularly bright, rather large objects moving at speeds way too fast to be your over-the-counter drone. And again, the FBI is getting involved. They've investigated around 5,000 reports about these drones, claiming that about 100 of them are considered credible. As of now, there have been no clear answers from authorities on who's behind the drones or what they're up to. This next report comes out again from New Jersey. This time, it's not just lights in the sky though. Whatever this object was, it actually affected the clock in a family's car. In early December, a family reported a strange effect while following one of these strange crafts that people have been seeing in the sky. As they drove along, the car's clock suddenly changed time, then went back to normal once they drove away. Local law enforcement in Morris County insists that there's no known threat to public safety, but residents are still trying to figure out what's going on themselves. There's even a Facebook group with over 17,000 members exchanging info on these sightings. One local software engineer, Rich Dunjewski, thinks the clock change might be a clue. He commented, "Many newer cars get their clock time from GPS satellites," adding that the drones could be using GPS jamming or spoofing. He went on to say that if these drones are using, quote, GPS jamming, then it's plausible the car would follow the signal and change the clock. FAA contractor David Lombardo agreed, saying these drones likely have electronic interference capability. base. A strange UAP was captured on camera back in 2018, but the video was kept secret for years. It was just released to the public last year in January of 2024. The object was spotted flying over a US military base in Iraq and was tracked by a military infrared radar. It moved across the base before making a controlled descent into a body of water. About 17 minutes later, it reappeared and took off at an incredible speed. The Pentagon has officially classified it as a UAP. What caught a lot of attention was how quickly the object changed color. You'll notice that the object keeps switching from this semi-translucent look to black. And since the video was shot using infrared, the color changes indicate shifts in temperature. The object was changing temperature so fast that it actually made it difficult for the radar to even track. And according to Dr. Matthew Sadagas, a physics professor at the University of Albany, it was doing this, quote, faster than any known object. This next video comes from the YouTube channel Plant Abundance, who wrote in the description that he'd been outside doing some tree work when this bright object caught his eye. He watched it as it stayed stationary for about a minute and a half before fetching his camera. He caught the tail end of it before it drifted downward and faded out. Again, this is another recent clip posted on October 14th of 2024. Now the object is hard to make out. It's obviously pretty high up, but zooming in, it's definitely not a plane or a satellite. It doesn't even look like your typical drone. It looks like a spherical metallic object. So what is it? I don't know. What do you all think? This footage was taken a few years ago. It's another spherical flying orb. The AARO, the office within the US Department of Defense that handles UAPs, released the footage captured by an MQ-9 Reaper drone during a Senate hearing in the Middle East. The video shows an orb smoothly flying through the sky at a high speed. The AARO came out saying that they had no idea what it was, calling it a genuine UAP, but they also mentioned it was not the first time they'd seen something like it. On December 16th of 2024, tourists at Disney World in Orlando caught sight of a glowing red UFO streaking upward in the night sky. The object kinda looks like a falling star, but in reverse. The video made the rounds on TikTok with people commenting it was a UAP of extraterrestrial origin. Now, unlike a lot of the other stuff on this list, this one may have a very clear explanation, and while that explanation probably isn't aliens, it's still pretty cool. The glowing streak was probably a SpaceX rocket that launched that night. Falcon 9's reusable booster successfully landed in the Atlantic after 8.5 minutes. SpaceX was transporting a GPS satellite for the US military. There was a similar sighting near Disney on December 23rd, also very likely a SpaceX mission. So this final story comes from a new docu-series called Investigation Alien. Footage was captured showing a strange object descending into the English Channel. The series follows journalist George Knapp and his team, including underwater archaeologist Rory Kremer, as they dig into evidence of extraterrestrial life. During one of their expeditions off the coast of Normandy, they spotted an illuminated object about 200 yards away. At first, it was stationary, but then it sped off, only to return later. But at that point, most of the crew was asleep. Kremer, though, was on night watch, and he was able to capture the object on camera as it plummeted into the water. Knapp was shocked when he saw the footage. He returned Kremer for an explanation, and Kremer, who's been in the field for over 20 years, admitted, "I don't got any answers, do you?" He thought it might be a flare, but it didn't have the typical smoke. As the object disappeared into the water, Knapp suggested it could be tied to some sort of subterranean base. Kremer pointed out that local tribes in the region have long reported unexplained lights, which were often linked to gods. They both agreed that the footage could be evidence of something much bigger lurking beneath the surface. Now, is this story legit or just a clever way of promoting the series? That's for you to decide. But based on everything on this list, could very well be alien.
At number 10, the Anita experiment, the scientific discovery that proves the existence of parallel universes. Now, okay, this one isn't technically aliens per se, but I wanted to mention it first because not only is it real, but come on, what's more exciting? Extraterrestrial visitors or extra-dimensional ones? Huh? Imagine a remote research station in Antarctica where scientists diligently hunt for cosmic rays. Now that's intriguing on its own, but it gets even better. See, naturally they had their instruments facing the sky, but then these researchers suddenly detect not one, but two signals shooting out of the ground beneath them, defying all logic. See, these rays of neutrinos are supposed to come from supernova, so it's highly improbable that the rays are passing through the Earth without coming into contact with a single particle of matter, only to land on a tiny weather balloon in the sky. To make sense of this, scientists dived into over 40 papers offering a buffet of explanations. Dark matter, elusive particles called sterile neutrinos, and then, the grandest of them all, a parallel universe, essentially a mirror image of ours, but where time runs backwards. Imagine that! This audacious idea isn't pulled out of thin air either. It's rooted in actual science, a theorem which hints that alongside our universe, an antimatter universe stretches backward through time before the Big Bang. But let's tap the brakes here, because a more down-to-earth theory has surfaced. That's right, hold your antimatter horses, because it turns out it's more likely that these signals were simply reflected off of ice or skipped off subglacial lakes. The truth, it seems, is more grounded, reflecting high-energy particles, not parallel dimensions. Sorry, y'all. I mean, unless you want to go ahead and put away Occam's razor. But before I do, if you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9, alien fossils. Back in 1996, NASA dropped a bombshell. Well, not literally. They stumbled upon a meteorite from Mars right there on our very own Antarctica. This space wanderer, a potato-shaped piece of Martian real estate, harbored something truly astonishing, a fossilized microbe. That's like finding a cosmic postcard in your backyard. This meteorite most likely embarked on a 15 million year journey across our solar neighborhood before cozying up on Earth. Now, let's dig deeper. The rock didn't just bring this Martian visitor, it also packed organic molecules. But before we declare aliens, bear in mind that this is an ongoing debate in the scientific arena. Some argue that this is a smoking pew-pew of extraterrestrial existence, while skeptics keep their feet firmly on Earth. What's your take on this otherworldly puzzle? At number 8 is the frozen ancient civilization. Enter Corey Goode, a name synonymous with the clandestine narrative that spirals deep beneath the Antarctic ice. The year was 2017 when Goode's voice resonated through the annals of conspiratorial discourse, asserting that a buried treasure lay beneath 2 miles of frigid ice, an ancient alien civilization, frozen in time. But let's rewind to 1939, a German expedition that allegedly stumbled upon this enigma. Fast forward to 2002, and the site begrudgingly opened its icy gate to scientists and archaeologists. What's captivating is Goode's own voyage, facilitated by the US Air Force, to witness the fabled civilization. A civilization that was rumored to be standing 55,000 years in Earth's past. This story leaves us yearning for forthcoming years to yield more insights into these Antarctic enigmas.
Number 7. The Carnival. As a way to raise money, Father Gregory Miller decided to host a carnival in August of 1949. The church sought help from Sergeant Donald R. Berger, and on the first night of the carnival, sometime after 8 p.m., he was operating the searchlight when it came upon a massive object in the sky. His log states the object was stationary, appearing as a glowing disc. When I moved the searchlight away, the disc continued to glow. He estimated the object to be around 25,000 feet high and reported that the sky was clear with a thin haze at altitude. More than 100 people saw the object that night, including Father Miller. Maybe nothing more would have come from this incident, but the next day, local newspapers carried stories about strange lights being reported all over Cincinnati, not just at the carnival. At least 3 major newspapers in the area ran stories about the sighting, so it definitely was something. Number 6. 86-mile police chase. In Portage Country in 1966, law enforcement officers from several jurisdictions either witnessed or chased a UFO for 86 miles into Pennsylvania. The incident is considered one of the most thoroughly documented UFO cases on record. Portage County Sheriff Deputy Dale Spar and Second Deputy named Wilbur Neff came upon the UFO around 5:30 a.m. on April 17th. They were investigating an abandoned vehicle and they heard a humming or buzzing noise behind them, and they turned to see a UFO hovering just above a nearby tree line. A bright cone-shaped light came from beneath the object, illuminating the ground. They called into dispatch, which told them to keep an eye on the object. Just then, the object began to quickly move away. The two decided to give chase, and near the state line, a local police officer saw the object, followed by Spar and Neff chasing it. He decided to join in on the action. However, a short time later, just as the sun was rising, Spar began to run out of gas, so he and Neff and the local police officer pulled into a gas station, where they watched the object ascend several thousand feet into the sky and then straight into outer space, and, well, that was that. Number 5. October 11th, 1973. October 11th was quite the night for Ohio residents as there were many UFOs spotted. In Dayton, at least 15 sightings were reported. Many witnesses reported seeing objects covered with red, green, and blue lights hovering over treetops in the area. A Montgomery County Sheriff's deputy reported seeing an oblong object covered with lights that appeared stationary in the sky at treetop level for several minutes until he tried to shine his cruiser's spotlight on it. It then zoomed towards him and then shot straight up in the sky. Then in Troy, according to an article in the Columbus Dispatch from October 12, 1973, titled UFO Reports Proceed Boom, on October 11th, Troy patrolman Early Thomas and about 100 Troy residents said they watched a hovering red, green, and white object move across the southeastern sky. Now, just to note, this happens to be the direction of Wright-Patterson. About 15 minutes later, law enforcement agencies in Miami, Champaign, and Logan counties received hundreds of telephone calls after a sonic boom was heard. They received more calls when a second sonic boom was heard just after midnight, and it seems like the aliens had something special planned for that day to me. Number 4. Trumbull County UFO Incident. Featured on the History Channel and numerous UFO documentaries, the Trumbull County UFO incident in northeast Ohio is exceptional because it was witnessed by numerous police officers and a 911 dispatcher, all of whom were being recorded as they spoke back and forth about the strange events unfolding the evening of December 14th, 1994. It was also seen by many members of the public as well. Now, around midnight, Trumbull County 911 began receiving calls from residents about strange low-flying lights in the sky. The dispatcher sent out Liberty Townsend police officers to investigate. One of them was Sergeant Toby Melrose, who saw a light. He got out of his car and looked up to see what he described as a giant circular-shaped object and intensely bright in the center section. It made no sound at all. The object was there for about 30 seconds before moving away. Shaken, Sergeant Melrose decided to chase the object, as did many other police officers in the area. At least 14 law enforcement officers saw the object that night, with all of them discussing it openly on their radios. Number 3. 1973. There were many UFO sightings in 1973 in Ohio and its surrounding states. For example, in Columbus on September 30th, a Franklin County man claims to have discovered a landing site near his home after seeing a strange object in the sky. Weeds at the alleged site are crushed to the ground in a semi-oval area 20 by 30 feet wide. The man says the object whooped down in a zigzag pattern and dropped below the trees. There are several dozen sightings of strange objects in the sky reported in the area that night. Then in Middletown on October 7th, a giant orange-colored cigar-shaped object with 5 discs following it and making no sound is reported flying over the city at 10 p.m. Many people see it, and Wright-Patterson receives numerous calls. Now, these are just 2 examples of that year, but there are many, many more. Number 2. Circleville. On August 26, 2022, Pete Hartinger said UFOs were spotted in the area. An expert on the topic who has seen a UFO with his own eyes, Pete said several people reported seeing UFOs between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m., including a man who saw something in the sky as he was traveling on US 23 north of Circleville. He saw strange lights, and going on down, he saw some more strange lights. He knows some other people who saw them too, he said. The man said it wasn't right the way the lights were acting. The lights came down, hit the ground, and went back up, so forget about them being flares. Pete said the man, who wishes to remain anonymous, reported what he saw to the Roundtown UFO Society, a local group dedicated to studying these matters. Anybody who has seen strange, mysterious lights that have been in the sky, please let us know, he said. He said at least half a dozen people saw the lights. One person said they saw orange lights over the fairgrounds, he said, and another person said he saw some military aircraft coming in after he saw those lights. Were they coming in to investigate, or what? Since 1947, there have been several sightings of UFOs in the Circleville area, which is strange. And coming in at number 1 is Ohio is a beacon. According to the Mutual UFO Network of Ohio, MUFON, the state ranks among the top 10 states in UFO reports. Thomas Wortman with the MUFON said, "It's all sorts of things we get. We get the individual who is out walking their dog at night who reports seeing unusual lights that they just can't explain. They see the lights for a few seconds or minutes and they just want an answer." Now, the majority of these reports come from northeast Ohio, Ohio, and Thomas says about 80% of what comes in the agency can be explained, but about 20% and up being classified as UFOs. Now, if you're waiting for the government to admit that aliens do exist, don't hold your breath, because the Time reports that the Pentagon isn't going to say that. But my question is, what is so special about Ohio?
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Holy Trinity. The Paracas candelabra is a mysterious geoglyph located in the Paracas Peninsula in Peru. It is a large figure carved into the side of a hill measuring over 180 meters in length, and it is visible from the sea. The geoglyph depicts a candelabra-like figure with a central stem and 3 branches extending outwards. Cactus-like, some would say. The exact age and purpose of the Paracas candelabra remains unknown, but it is believed to have been created by the Paracas culture who inhabited the region from 800 BCE to 100 BCE. In other words, it's very old. This geoglyph is now considered an important archaeological site and a cultural landmark of Peru, attracting tourists and researchers who are all of course intrigued by its history and symbolism. The stuff just blows my mind. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Dark Ages tomb. Looking back to the Dark Ages in Shamir Heights, northern Israel, this tomb is quite large. Made up of 400 tons of boulders and stretching 65 feet wide, this burial chamber goes back 4,000 years. It could mean that humans were part of an organized society that long ago, especially considering the art that they found on the ceiling inside the dolmen. This is the first time art has been documented in one of these chambers in the Middle East, and we haven't quite figured out what the ceiling carvings depict yet. So far, we think arrows or anchors. Inside the actual grave, there were 3 sets of human remains, so it has been used for quite a while. While excavating the ancient grave site, archaeologists also found colored beads. One of the most intriguing parts of the grave has to be the lines carved in the ceiling. All those lines connecting to one arc. What does it mean? In our number 8 spot today, we have the Nazca lines. We've all heard of alien crop circles at one point or another. I remember watching the movie Signs when I was younger. And then I couldn't sleep for 13 years. The birthday party scene is just too much for me. And that is exactly why this next one freaked me out. Just 200 miles southeast of Peru, we can find hundreds of markings etched into the earth. They're massive pieces of art, like crop circles, but more intimidating. The biggest ground graffiti spans over 1,200 feet. Many people believe this was an ancient ritual for water. Given its location, that theory checks out. Another theory, written in 1968 in Eric von Daniken's book Chariots of the God, suggests that ancient Nazca was a site for alien visitors, leaving behind knowledge in the form of these massive doodles and technology. One of them just says Garbazar was here. We're like, oh, nice.
At number 7, the Antarctic Pyramids. In 2016, rumors of pyramid-like mountains circulated the internet, capturing the imaginations of many. Could it be a creation of ancient civilizations, or perhaps, cue the dramatic pause, evidence of ancient extraterrestrial intervention? This square-based pyramid is perched upon the Ellsworth Range, standing around 4,000 feet tall. That's like 10 times the size of the pyramids of Giza. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Or should I say, tip of the pyramid? Reports of plant and bacterial life dating back eons also have come to light, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, a prehistoric, or should I say pre-human society once grazed this frigid expanse, crafting not only pyramids but also tending to the vegetation. Bam! Proof of ancient aliens. Or just a neat geological formation. I'll let y'all decide in the comments. At number 6, Admiral Byrd's Crystal City. Esteemed US naval officer Admiral Richard Byrd was one of the first pilots to fly over both poles, organizing Operation High Jump, the largest expedition to ever travel to Antarctica with all kinds of ships, aircraft, and crew in order to scout locations for potential military bases. But during his explorations, Admiral Byrd allegedly came upon something highly unexpected. The following comes not from a public account, but from his own diary, discovered by his son after Byrd's passing, in which he recounts an extraordinary discovery. Upon encountering a large cave in the South Pole through which he could easily fly his plane, Byrd steers his plane into the opening and flew igloo underneath the earth. As he flies within the massive cave, he encroaches upon an incredibly temperate and lush environment. Not something you'd expect in the South Pole, but that's just the beginning. He tells about how he sees a shimmering rainbow city made out of crystal. Suddenly he loses control of his plane as flying disc-shaped objects lead him to the ground, whereupon he's escorted to a being which he refers to as the Master in his diary, who tells Bird that it's massively disappointed with nuclear weapons and how they've recently destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, seeming to really be concerned with what's going on the surface, telling Bird that these aliens hope humanity will ultimately stop this. At number 5, a UFO is discovered. In October of 2020, satellite images of Antarctica unveiled a peculiar sight. Amidst the icy expanse, an object resembling a semicircular flying saucer emerged, slightly elevated and casting a telltale shadow. Believed by some to be an ancient aircraft dating back thousands if not millions of years. The notion of aliens opting for this secluded spot brims with intrigue. However, before we leap into intergalactic conclusions, it's essential that we exercise caution. While this image sparks conjecture, we do lack conclusive evidence about its origin or purpose. At number 4 is the alien base. If this next story is to be believed, there's allegedly a secret alien base with advanced and unconventional weapons hidden in the icy waters of the Antarctic. According to a video uploaded by UFO hunters, a mysterious anomaly about 180 kilometers off the coast of Antarctica has been spotted. They speculate that it's not just some kind of hangar for a spaceship, but that actual aliens might be residing there too. Now this may veer toward the conspiracy side rather than urban legend, but hey, it's all in good fun. Some believers are advocating for an expedition to confirm the existence of these aliens, while others voice concerns about potentially sparking an intergalactic war if we're not careful. So whatever it is, let's just hope we tread carefully. At number 3, the Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary maritime menace straight from the annals of Scandinavian folklore, a colossal cephalopod-like creature feared for its ship-swallowing antics and sailor-dragging tendencies. But could this creature of nautical nightmares actually be an alien? Yeah, you heard me right. A Reddit user named Bavin Hunter has set their investigative sights on Google Earth, claiming that they spot what appears to be a Kraken near Deception Island in Antarctica. Quite the ironic location, I must say. They suggest that this dark spot lurking in the depths might just be this mystical monster. Granted, we've got some real-life cephalopods that can stir the imagination, but they're not exactly Kraken-sized. Or maybe it's a cryptic alien being lurking beneath the icy depths. At number 2, alien DNA. Traces of potential alien DNA were discovered in the Antarctic, a mind-boggling revelation that recently shook the scientific community regarding DNA traces found beyond the depths of certain Antarctic caverns. Algae DNA, intertwined with fragments from minute creatures, paints a picture of potential alien origin. Though no immediate creatures were unearthed, this discovery opens portals to speculation. Could Antarctica, once deemed a barren expanse, have teemed with diverse life forms? For life here are akin to an extraterrestrial habitat, hinting at hidden chambers harboring unexpected life. Warmth emanating from beneath the icy veneer adds to the intrigue, making it plausible for life to have gained a foothold here. At number 1 is the crashed UFO on Google Maps. In the realm of mysterious Antarctic enigmas, 2019 incident lit the extraterrestrial fuse. Enter Scott C. Waring, a fervent UFO enthusiast who, armed with Google Maps, embarked on a digital Antarctic odyssey. His pixelated gaze locked onto a triangular UFO ensnared within the icy clutches. With a distinctive hump and formidable edges, this alien ridge, should the thought unshackle this craft, could we witness an eerie revival of extraterrestrial occupants? This UFO trapped in icy stasis awaits a tangible inquiry, as its revelation could potentially reshape our cosmic worldview. So as we peel back the layers of ice and venture deeper into Antarctic's hidden past, we're left with a trove of unsolved puzzles. Are these clues pointing to the extraterrestrial visitors, or are they simply the product of natural phenomena that we've yet to fully comprehend? The allure of the unknown keeps us asking questions, keeps us searching for that flicker of insight that might illuminate the truth. And whether you find yourself firmly grounded in skepticism or ready to embrace the possibility of otherworldly contact, one thing is for sure: the Antarctic holds its secrets close.